Good evening. I want to see if you guys have any questions from the last session we had. If not from there, based upon anything that you have read or has come across your pathway. So, if so, please raise those questions now. I appreciate it.
Good evening, this is Vermel. I know
Hmm?
we stopped around verse 12 in Habakkuk chapter 2. Are we going to go further into the rest of chapter 2?
Um, I think Ron had intentions of doing that.
Okay.
However, I have not looked beyond where we went yesterday.
Uh-huh.
So I'm hoping we will. Have you read it? Or do you have questions about it? What is the?
I do, but it's further on into verse 17 and 20. And I wanted, I'm willing, I can wait till we journey on further into, because the question may be answered.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going another place today.
Uh-huh. Okay. I've got
What
it
is?
written down.
Okay. What is? You say verse what, babe?
It's verse 17. It talks about the violence of Lebanon, and I'm wondering what that is in reference to.
Oh, okay. That's in the
Verse,
verse 17 for the robbery of Lebanon. Oh, okay. I see what you're talking about.
yes. So it can hold till then. I've got them written down.
Okay. All right. I'll relay that to Ron then. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions about anything we discussed or something else that's crossed your pathway? Okay. Yesterday, after Ron completed the discussion, he won't be on this evening. Um, he let me know that he had some obligation today, so he wouldn't be here this evening. And I want to talk about something that we have mentioned quite some time ago, and that is delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. That's in Psalm 37 and 4. And I'm sure that most of us have heard that scripture. And I want to explore that in relationship to Isaiah 58 and 13. And Isaiah 58 and 13 tells us what must be done in order for us to get the delight of our heart, or what our heart is delighting for, desire rather. So when I was first introduced to this verse, the way that it has been interpreted, it was through our charismatic ministry. Excuse me, and I'm sure that is the same way that most of us were introduced to this verse in particular and focused on it the way that it was focused on. Immediately when I was introduced to this verse, I started to ask myself, how do you delight yourself in the Lord? And I started searching the scriptures through concordance, and it landed me in 58 Isaiah. But then, as we were talking about it recently, my question was, are we really looking at this and getting an understanding from it based upon what is really being said? And that in itself was a major question to me. So I read the verses, but then something caught my eye in that first verse And that first verse spoke to me in relationship to this fourth one that we're looking at, because it ties all of it together. That first verse says, fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. And when I looked at that and started looking at some of the words and what they meant, it's a totally different message there than it appears to be in the translation, the English translation of this verse.
Excuse me, Pastor, can you tell us where you're reading from again?
Psalm 37:1.
Okay, thank you.
It says, when it says, fret not thyself because of evildoers, it appears as though it's speaking about not being envious of people who are evil. But there's a deeper message in that particular verse. It really says, do not attempt to gain prosperity through the sinful ways of the wicked. Do not try to gain prosperity by the ways of the unrighteous, or don't seek it through injustices. What it's actually telling us is, do not make any efforts to gain prosperity using the same methods that those who are manipulators, or those who use people or take advantage of people in order to get what they want. Don't cheat anyone. Don't lie and steal to get what you want. That in itself, to me, is a prelude to this verse about delighting yourself in the Lord. Now, this is actually speaking to material gain, but it's also speaking to notoriety. You don't put down other people or make them seem small in order for you to get the notoriety that you are seeking. You don't belittle anyone to make yourself look larger or to make yourself look smarter. All of these words pertain to both the material as well as the attitudes that we have in seeking positions or being in positions of authority. Are there any questions about this before I keep moving? Or comments, for that matter? There being none, I would take it that we're pretty clear on what's being said here. Now, when we go to that fourth verse, it says, delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of your heart. All the verses prior to that is telling you not to follow the pathway of evildoers, telling you to trust in the Lord, and then we get to this particular verse that has been singled out for materialistic gain, based upon what we have been taught through charismatic ministry in particular, and translations from the original to the English generally. This has nothing to do with material things at all. And the reason I say that is because this whole idea of delight is speaking to find your joy in the Lord. Is speaking to when it speaks about delighting yourself in the Lord, it's talking about finding your joy there. Matter of fact, even finding yourself in the Lord, or using your journey rather towards understanding the Lord. And it says that when you delight yourself, he shall give you the desires of your heart. And this word that's translated as give you the desires of your heart also is translated, should be translated as find your enjoyment in the Lord, and he will grant you the petitions of your soul. And that is far cry different than the desires of your heart. In our vernacular, when we talk about the desires of our heart, we are actually talking about our wants. We are talking about what we want for ourselves. And that's exactly the way this scripture has been interpreted, to mean that if you delight yourself in the Lord, he will give you what you want. But no one has said, how do you do that? I remember teaching quite some time ago, this section in Isaiah, the verses in Isaiah, that tells us how to do that. For the most part, I'm sure that most of us have not really embraced that because of not knowing exactly what he's talking about. But in addition to that, verse 5 is inextricably tied to verse 4. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. What is this talking about? When it says commit your way unto the Lord, this is a major part of understanding verse 4. This should have been translated in this vein. Commit your journey, commit your pathway to the Lord. Confide in your security in the Lord. Do not seek your security or your sustenance outside of your journey towards the Lord. What he's saying is, regardless of the way that you travel, you can get the petitions of your soul by being committed to the journey that leads you. The journey that is guided by the Lord, and in that you will also find security. And this security is not just speaking about safety from something happening to you. It's also talking about being secure in who you are, being secure in your sustenance, being secure about where your needs comes from, being secure in knowing that you are never alone, finding that security in Yahweh. And when you do that, when you commit yourself to this pathway, then the desires of your soul will come to fruition. So when we look at this, the question becomes, if he's talking about giving you the desires of your soul and you traveling the journey that's laid out before you by Yahweh, all of these desires of your soul will come to fruition. So how do you delight yourself, and what will bring these desires to fruition? This tells us what our desires should be. And if you want to follow me to Isaiah, first, are there any questions?
Yes. Yes. I noticed that you skipped over verse 3, which said that, which had to do with, after you talked about one, don't do anything in an unrighteous way to get what you want, or don't build yourself up, all of that. Then verse 3 talks about trusting in the Lord and doing what's right. In other words, make a decision. To make a decision to dwell in. It says dwell in the land, and that in that consciousness, sort of like feeding on faithfulness. Make a decision that you're going to do what's right. Then after you make that decision, after you give up all that other stuff in verse 1 and 2, you make a decision to follow what the Lord says, then certain things would happen, in a sense, if that resonates.
Yes, it does. Abide in that consciousness and be steadfast in it, and you will be fed. And again, it's speaking of the soul. Thank you for pointing that out. Any questions or comments about that?
This is Vermel. I'm a little lost. Miss Barbara and Sage, were you reading from Isaiah 58 verses 1 through 5 just now? Or Psalm?
No, Psalm 37, but just a slightly different iteration.
Okay, that's where I got mixed up. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. If you were mixed up, you're supposed to raise the question. Are you there now, Camille?
Yes, I am. I'm turning there now. I'm there.
Okay. So again, these verses, these first 5 verses, are speaking to how we are to conduct ourselves in our lives, and it's speaking to those things that we should avoid. There are many times when we talk about how the evildoers or the unrighteous always seems to prevail. Mean and evil people always seem to make it, and others seem to always be struggling. And our desire to cease the struggling comes by following the pathway that has been laid out before us by the Lord, and when it says when it says that the pathway has been laid out, commit yourself. That's a big thing. You can't just say, I'm going to travel this pathway so I can get what I want. And delighting yourself in the Lord is not praise dancing. It's not shouting. It's not speaking in tongues. It's not praying all night. It's not fasting. Delighting yourself in the Lord has no religious rituals at all. When it says that he will give you the desires of your soul, that speaks volumes to what it takes to delight yourself in the Lord. Any questions about that? Are we clear on that? And it's important that we are, because when we go to Isaiah 58, I'm going to be reading from the Torah, if you don't mind.
Okay, I have a question. You just emphasized just now that the desires of your heart are different from the desires of your soul. Do I have that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
What I said earlier is that when we talk about the desires of our hearts, we have been conditioned to talk about what we want, getting what we want. If your heart is set on what you want, you'll get it. In the East, there's no difference between your heart and your soul. In the English translation of that and the understanding of the nature of the heart speaks differently about desires than it does about the desires for the soul.
Okay.
My heart is set on going on this trip. My heart is set on getting this job. I know in my heart I'm going to be able to purchase this house. Those kinds of things.
Okay.
Our affinity for speaking of things from the heart usually are inextricably tied to those things that are materialistic and those things that we desire for ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Sure. Anyone else?
Good evening, everyone. Reverend Richard, and to the body of the audience, just for clarification, I feel that whenever an individual heart is in something, they're pretty much fully committed. And that can be, what's that again, Rep?
What you said, please.
I didn't hear you. What did you say, Reverend Richard?
Repeat what you said.
It's my opinion that whenever an individual heart is in something, they're pretty much fully committed to what their heart is in. And if your heart is in something that is godly or ungodly, committed to it. The other statement or question that I have is, in getting in rhythm with the Creator, my desire will be different than other people desire, and so will so will that individual desire be different from mine. And I'm just asking the body, what does it really mean to be in concert with the Creator, to be on the same page with that part of the Creator? Is it the masculine side of the Creator or the feminine side? Is it duality? Because my way of getting in rhythm with the Creator is different than Reverend Richard, or it could be the same. I know I'm rambling, people, but yet, but forgive me. Although yet, do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
All right, I'm listening.
Okay. When you talk about what side to get in contact with the Creator, whether it's masculine or feminine, you cannot separate it. There is no division between masculine and feminine, because when we are talking about masculinity and femininity, we are not talking about men and women. We are talking about energy, and energy ebbs and flows constantly. When I raise a question, that energy flows a question, which means it's a seed. When someone responds to that question with an answer, or if I answer my own question, then that has produced something, or birthed something. It has birthed an answer. So we cannot, if we were constantly walking around trying to decide whether or not we being masculine or feminine at different times, we drive ourselves crazy, and we would never move from our square one, and we would never be on a journey. We will always be in a state of confusion. Does that make sense to you, sir?
So far, yeah.
So, is there anyone else who would like to address that? Okay, so all I'm saying is that we cannot determine whether we go be feminine today or masculine tomorrow, or feminine this minute or masculine the next second. We can't do that. We travel the journey, and we speak what we see, and we raise questions about what we don't understand. And none of us are thinking whether it's masculine or feminine. Now, the other part of it is this: there is no such thing as being disconnected from the Creator. Only way you're ever disconnected from the Creator is that it's in your mind, your thoughts. But in reality, there is never a disconnect at all, ever. So with that understanding, if we were trying to figure out masculine and femininity, then we are not hearing from the Creator. And when you're not hearing, you're not traveling. You become stagnant, and there is no growth. Questions, comments? George?
Thank you, Reb.
Yes, sir. Anyone else? With everything that we've said in regards to delighting yourself in the Lord and receiving the desires of your soul, when we look at, and the reason I did not read everything, I'm not reading everything, rather, all the way down to the 13th verse, is because this is a lamentation. This is talking this is saying to Isaiah what to say to the people about their transgressions, and what to say to them about how they are responding to the Creator. Like verse 2 says, "Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, and as a nation that did righteousness and forsook not the ordinance of the law of God, they ask of me the ordinances of justice. They take delight in approaching God. Wherefore have we fasted, say they, and thou seest not. Wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and thou takest no knowledge." So what he's talking about are the missteps of the nation, and how the nation has taken upon itself to travel its chosen journey, as opposed to traveling the journey that the Creator intends for it to travel. And when you get down to that, the 12th verse, it talks about, and they shall be, of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations, and thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of the past to dwell in. If thou turn, now this is what you receive: repairs of the breach. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Lord honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thy own words. Then shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken it.
Pastor, where are you reading from now? Excuse me for interrupting. Where are you reading from now?
58, Isaiah 58.
And what verse?
I started skimming through in verse 2, but I'm at verse 13 and 14 are the primary verses.
Okay, thank you.
So what he's saying is if you do these things, then thou delight thyself. So what is he talking about? These are the things that are expected of you if you are considering, if you are delighting yourself in the Lord. And I'm going to read it again, the 13th verse from the Torah. If you restrain your foot because it is the Sabbath, refrain your accomplishing your own needs on my holy day, if you proclaim the Sabbath a delight and the holy day of Hashem honored, and you honor it by not engaging in your own affairs, from seeking your own needs or discussing the forbidden, then you will delight in Hashem, and I will mount you astride the heights of the world. I will provide you the heritage of your forefather Jacob, for the mouth of Hashem has spoken. What he's saying is this: if you restrain your foot because it is, if you stop journeying your journey, if you stop traveling the way you desire to travel, if you stop pursuing a religion, if you stop pursuing materialism, and you recognize the Sabbath, Shabbat, if you recognize it, if you refrain from doing, accomplishing those things that provides for you, and doing this on my holy day, meaning that if you stop making efforts to satisfy yourself, and you begin to make efforts to remember the Sabbath, and I'll get to that in a moment. If you proclaim the Sabbath a delight, a joy, or something to be enjoyed, the Sabbath is not just one day. The Sabbath is continuous. So when it talks about the day, it's not talking about Saturday is the day of Sabbath, as is recognized by Judaism in particular. Sabbath is not. Saturday is not just the Sabbath. Sabbath is every day. When you are traveling this journey of the journey for the redemption of humanity, for the redemption of the earth itself, that is a continuous thing. And the thing about the Sabbath, what does that mean? The Sabbath means that you are constantly remind yourself of where your strengths come from. You remind yourself who your Creator is. You remind yourself of the journey that you are traveling. You remind yourself that this is not about you. You remind yourself that arrogance gets you no place. Being egotistical causes you to lose sight of who you are. You can never find yourself if you are traveling based on ego. If your journey is based upon you trying to be popular or prove that you know something that someone else doesn't know, then that's a journey of egotism, and it has nothing to do with delighting yourself in the Lord. And the desires of your soul are not desires that will satisfy your material wants. The desires of your soul are supposed to be the desires to bring balance to humanity, to bring an understanding of truth to humanity. And when you do these things, you don't have to worry about your sustenance, because the Creator will always take care of you. Excuse me, will make a way for you to have those things that you need, because... Would you mute your phone, please? Would you mute your phone, please? Because it is an obligation to the Creator to provide your sustenance if you delight yourself in the journey of the Creator. Am I making sense so far, or am I confusing you?
Making sense.
Thank you. Any
I have a
questions?
question.
Go ahead.
So, where does the scripture that says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you"? Is that the same thing in what you're talking about now?
Yes, it is. Exactly the same thing. It is spoken another way. It's used in different words to say the same thing.
And instead of me having selfish desires, I should have a desire for mankind. Is that what you're saying also?
Exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hey, Rail,
Hmm?
you remember when you had said when the tax was around, I said when Jesus told the man to go get that pen out of the fish mouth, and he said, "You see who headed on this corn?" And he said, "Give unto Caesar what Caesar, and give unto God what is God." That right there is about the same too, ain't it?
What he's saying is, that's another way of saying don't cast pearls beneath the feet of swine. Give Caesar what belongs to Caesar. In other words, give the government the tax that you owe them. If you notice, Jesus did not go after Caesar. Jesus never went after the government. Jesus went after the priest. Jesus did not come to challenge governmental powers. Jesus came to challenge the lack of spiritual acumen amongst the priests. Jesus came to challenge what should be challenged, what we are challenging now, and everyone should be challenging, and that is the priesthood or pastoral leadership, regardless of what denomination or regardless of whether it's called an imam or a rabbi. The challenge is because religion has lost sight, if it ever had sight, of the journey that the people are supposed to be guided upon. When we guide people along the journey that the Creator has laid out before us, it is then that we begin to see peace and harmony prevail. Yet, the difficulty in that is we have been so indoctrinated with a system that has taught us to get everything you can for yourself and for yours. And everyone else, they're too lazy to make it, or if they strive hard enough, they will make it. That's the attitude that we have grown up with, that we have been taught all of our lives. And that has not proven to be successful in any way for us. If you look at what happened in Greenwood, in the Greenwood community in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, if you look at that, the only way that the Greenwood district thrived is because they were on the same journey. Now, there has not been, to my knowledge, any group of people that's on the journey a spiritual journey rather, with the express purpose of changing the hearts and minds of mankind until now. So all I'm saying is this: when we have collective spiritual focus, collective spiritual desire, the I becomes single. And when the I is single, the whole body is single. When and if the I is dark, the whole body is dark. So we are in light. We are walking in light for the purpose of bringing harmony to humanity. We are not searching for making money off of what we know in order to get ahead of someone else. Am I saying that you shouldn't be working? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. That's crazy. I wouldn't say that. But I am saying the central focus, the paramount focus above everything else should be understanding that our joy should be found in the journey that the Lord is guiding us on. The journey that we are traveling, that's where we should find our joy, even though there is difficulty sometimes in maintaining joy when we see all the things happening around us. It is at that point that we cease to look with our eyes and begin to see with the eye. And you can only read the signs of the times when you see it with your eye, not your eyes. Because your eyes have a tendency to speak to you in a different way than your eye does. And your eyes are the thing that gets you in trouble or distracts you from the journey. Your eye, it keeps. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
The whole thing about delighting and receiving the desires of the heart is the desires of your soul. If you allow your soul to control your mind rather than your mind dominating your soul, then you have empathy. You have a depth of empathy that you did not realize was possible. You have a desire for humanity to become one unit. That desire is stronger than any desire that you've ever had. But you cannot embrace that desire or travel to the place where that desire becomes who you are, while at the same time pursuing religion and pursuing unrighteous methods of receiving what you want. Does that make sense? And I don't mind anyone helping me if you choose to.
It does make sense.
Pastor, I'm sorry. I need clarity on, will you help me understand what delight means again, please?
Find your enjoyment. Find your peace in this journey. when you find your peace in the Lord, when your joy is in the Lord, it is then that you are traveling the journey that the Creator desires you to travel. The steps of the righteous is guided by the Lord. So this is another way of saying when your journey is guided by the Lord, and you find joy and peace in that, that's delighting yourself in the Lord. Does that make sense? Can someone
It
help
does.
me? Okay.
Am I the Lord that we're talking about?
No, not yet. I ain't gotten there yet.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Let me go there now, okay?
Okay.
First of all, in order for you to see that you are the Lord that we're talking about, that you are Elohim, in order for you to see that, you must first be searching for Elohim. And when you search for Elohim and the understanding thereof, you begin to see a mirror. And the mirror that you begin to see is that you are the same as Elohim, and Elohim is as you are. You are Elohim in a body, having a human experience. So when you embrace that, that is when your journey becomes a joy. That is when you find your peace in that journey. There's always a struggle when you don't realize who you are. When you don't realize who you are struggling because you're looking for someone else to bring deliverance to you. You're looking for someone else to travel this journey for you. But when you understand who you are, you realize the journey towards truth is for the benefit of humanity. Does that make sense?
It does.
And you should find pleasure. You should find joy. You should find peace in the midst of that journey, knowing that you are bringing deliverance. Knowing that you're bringing the energy for the purpose of deliverance into the earth, knowing that you are capable of touching every soul in this earth for the purpose of deliverance should be joyous to you. It should bring peace to you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Anyone else? I'm going to give you an example of something now about knowing who you are. This has been attributed to J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover said that the black man in America would never be unified. And he said the reason he would never be unified, he said the Nigerian will be unified. It's easy for them to find unity within themselves. But the reason the black man in America will never unify is because he doesn't know who he is. Now, he was talking about he does not know what his ethnic origin is or what tribe he belongs, etc. Think about that. He will not be unified because he doesn't know who he is. And if you are honest about what you have observed and what you have experienced in the past in your life, there's always been a struggle, a struggle to unify us. There's always been a desire to know who we are, but we have been looking in the wrong places for it. As long as we are looking to be an American, we will never learn who we are. As long as we are searching for specific biological roots on the continent of Africa, we will never know who we are. When we embrace the reality that we are a nation that was formed by the universe as we cross those waters, we were birthed then. If we embrace that and look at Melchizedek, and what's that saying about us? Melchizedek had no beginning, no end. No one knew where he came from. No one knew where he went when he left. He was just like the Spirit. He is the Spirit. We are the same way. When we see ourselves as being a spiritual nation that was born on the waters, even though our bodies was being abused, was being destroyed in every way possible, it was not destroying who we are. It was pushing us in a corner so tightly until it forced us to search for who we are. And when we found out that we are not Americans, we are Africans living in America because Americans have certain rights that we don't have. When we understand that and we find ourselves in the mirror of Elohim and see who we are, it is then that we are able to not only read the signs of the times, but to influence them to the extent that they will be beneficial to the whole of humanity. And if we cannot find joy in that journey, if we cannot find peace in that journey, if we cannot find ourselves and hold on to that in that journey, then there's no point in our existing at all. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's not rhetorical.
Yes. Yes, it makes sense.
Thank you. So, this scripture has everything to do with our soul. We cannot build a nation unless we know who we are. How can you build a nation and you don't know who you are? Because you don't know what the nation is going to look like when it's structured. And the nation that I'm talking about is one that's not seen with eyes. The nation that I'm talking about looks beyond race and all those other things. The nation that I'm talking about is a nation of souls that's hungry for a spiritual understanding of who they are and how they remain one with the universe itself. A nation that does not deflect when they're called God, but embrace the totality of it. Does not draw up in a ball and feel embarrassed when someone tells them you can't be God. When we are in this place of embracing who we are, we realize that because of our joy on this journey, because of the peace, because of the desire, we will always be successful. And success looks nothing like the success that we have been taught success is. Success comes with pain, and success comes sometimes with disappointment. But when you see it through your eye, disappointment disappears because you realize that there is nothing that can stop the pathway, the journey of the righteous. There is absolutely nothing that can inhibit us from bringing peace and harmony, loving kindness to this consciousness of the earth. Questions or comments?
How does that work on the individual level, what you're talking about?
If you're not in that space that I'm talking about internally, then it's not possible for you to be there collectively. You have to know who you are internally, embrace it, and that in itself make us aware of the unicity that we are, the oneness that we have with each other. I'm going to give you an example. Excuse me. There are 13 facilitators, and all of us present differently. All of us process differently. Our goal is the same. Our desire for truth and harmony are the same, even though our approach is different. There's nothing different about the goal. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, it makes sense.
Thank you. Just because we process differently does not mean we are not one. The thing that makes us one is knowing who we are. When that which was attributed to Hoover, when you look at that, all he's saying is that the Nigerians can become one because they have commonality. They know who they are. The African male in America, the African man, because he's talking about women as well, in America does not have that kind of continuity within their ranks. So they don't. They are fragmented. Everyone pulling in a different way. Can you see the difference? Religion has pulled us in so many different ways until we don't know which way is the right way, until we recognize that religion is a type of bondage pretending to be spiritual. And when we realized that and began questioning it, it is at that point that revelation takes place. We began to see what's in this allegory. We began to see the spiritual essence of the allegory. We began to see that spiritual essence of the allegory is who we are also. Because in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and God. So we are the Word. We are the thought. We are everything that our Creator is and was. Does that make sense? So let me ask this question: Are you any clearer on delighting yourself in the Lord and receiving the desires of your soul?
I'm clear on it, Pastor Jay.
I am too. Much better, much clearer.
I am too.
Me too.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And the bottom line about what's in Isaiah is stay focused on the Sabbath. Stay focused on who you are, who created you, the source of your sustenance, the source of your being. Stay focused. Stop running after your own affairs, your own wants. All your energies, your priority should not be what you want. Your priority should be what mankind needs. Is that simple enough?
You're right. Yes.
Religion doesn't give you that. Religion tells you to pray about it. Religion doesn't tell you to be who you created to be. Religion tells you to be a Christian, and then by and by everything will work out. Religion tells you to be a Muslim, and you will have X number of wives when you get to the other side. But Judaism tells you that there's only one God, even though Elohim is plural. So I don't know how they come to that conclusion. There's multiple. There's one yet many. There are several. There are billions of stars. There are numerous planets, and you take all of those to make up one universe. So all those fragmented parts make up the universe. They are one with the universe. Why is it that the one who created us in his image, why is it that we cannot see that each one of us in these bodies are also the image of the Creator spiritually. And it takes all of that to make up Elohim. Does that make sense? Or is that a bad example?
An example to me.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay? So if there are questions or comments, please raise them. No questions, no comments? That's all I got.
Hey, Rip, I got a question. You remember when Jesus went into the building, and he started beating the people, whooping the people because they was making his father's house as a den? It's more to that than what I'm hearing, because God did not live in a temple anymore. Why I know he was beating them because they was doing unrighteous things in the temple, but clarify that more.
The temple had become a place of thieves, and they were money hungry. They were just like your church used to be. They were selling in the vestibule of the temple. If you look at it from the material aspects of that. If you look at it spiritually, it's talking about you. Be very cautious about what you allow to take place in your temple. What is your temple? Your temple is your body. So be aware of the thoughts, the desires that you allow in that temple. It's not as easy to drive those thoughts and desires out as you think it is. It's a constant battle to drive those thoughts and desires away and to maintain a stable journey towards truth. Don't ever think that you have gotten to a place where you've arrived. There's a battle taking place. Spiritual journey does not have a destination. Spiritual journey is your destiny, meaning that the journey is continuous. You never reach the end of the pathway. Does that make sense?
Yes. Because when you said that, the battle is within you, and the whole time I was thinking that he was doing that because he didn't want none of that stuff, to happen in that building. But the thing is, the building is.
And my house shall be called a house of prayer. And you have
turned
it into a den of thieves. So it's the money, it's the attitude, it's a lot involved in that, Charles. But that's a synopsis of what I see at this moment that is being said. Okay?
Yeah, that little that you had said, it helped me a whole lot.
Thank you, sir. Glad it did. Anyone else? Well, I'm going to bid you adieu. And you enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll talk again on Saturday. And if you have questions, bring them. For Mel, don't forget yours, okay?
I won't forget mine. Thank you.
You guys have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
You too, Pastor.
Thank you.
All right.